Push Past 10 Nation, come on in, check in, post the message. Let us know that you are here. Simone here. And yes, we've all heard the news that First Domestic Insurance is liquidating. That means that it is going out of business. So, yet another company, another major institution in Dominica, is going out of business and pretty much liquidating their assets. So we know that you have lots of questions, lots of concerns, especially if you're a homeowner with a mortgage that was being insured by First Domestic. So come on in, share the live. We are very grateful that Marceline Edwards is joining us today. She very quickly agreed to join us this evening to help us to better understand what is going on with regards to First Domestic and the implications for the closure of this major insurance company in Dominica. So again, come on and share the live. Let everyone know that we are here, and let us welcome Marceline to the program. Marceline, Dave Bertrand, I see you. Thank you for joining us all the way out there in the UK. Great to have you on board. So Marceline, thank you so much for joining us in quick time. We know that you're true, patriotic Dominican, and you're always ready to assist whenever possible. So thank you for being with us this evening to talk about this important topic.
Well, thank you, Dr. Simone Matthew.
Simone is fine.
Yes. And a special good evening to you and your listening audience as well.
Yes.
Well, it is a pleasure being on your program for the very first time.
Yes. I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't think I've actually hosted Marceline before. So since you've never been on our platform, just go ahead and tell us briefly a little bit about you, especially as it relates to your professional background with insurance.
Simone, I must say I feel privileged to be your guest this evening. And although it's not to discuss a favorable subject, but I am glad I am here nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
I am a household name,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone, a lot of people know me as Marceline Gordon, but I am, married to Edwards, so I'm Marceline Edwards, and my background is in insurances. So since I have a career in insurances, I have worked with the insurance companies in Dominica for over 15 years, as well as I have been a producer here in America for a few years too. And so insurances is my professional background, I must say. And although I was not contracted with First Domestic directly, but being an agent of Life of Barbados, which is now Surgical Life Incorporated, I had the privilege to market the products of First Domestic Insurance Company. And because, as you know, that Curtis Tong was the manager of Life of Barbados and First Domestic for Life of Barbados, which became Surgical Life after the acquisition was completed. And we know that Barbados Mutual bought over Surgical Life Incorporated. Barbados Mutual bought over Life of Barbados, and the company became Surgical Life Incorporated. So that is how Surgical Life Incorporated was born. So yes, so Mr. Tong was the manager of Life of Barbados for many years, and he went on to form his own insurance company, which is a First Domestic Insurance Company that we are now talking about. And it is by now everyone knows that Mr. Curtis Tong was the manager for many
Yeah.
years, and
Mm-hmm.
with establishing his own insurance company, which is it was the first indigenous insurance company in Ireland. And of course, it was a success for many years, hiring, training, and employing indigenous Dominicans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also,
And that is significant.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that company was also contributing significantly to the Dominican economy. And
Mm-hmm.
was a household company.
Hmm.
And
But I think also, Masin, what would be helpful, because I get the sense that many of us don't have a clear understanding of insurance. So why don't you, since this is an area that you're proficient in, why don't you kind of just explain to us what exactly is mortgage insurance? Because one of the concerns I think a lot of us have is that first domestic did not seem to have fallen under an umbrella insurance that would have put it in a better position than what we're seeing today. So kind of just walk us through, insurance and the need to have coverage even beyond the company that you're insuring with.
well, Simon, mortgage insurance or is different from life insurance in itself, and it depends on what the bank is looking for. Mortgage insurance can also be insuring the mortgage for, let's say that you have a 20-year mortgage, that you go to the bank and you apply for a $500,000 mortgage, and the bank give you the requirements as to how to secure that loan. And part of that securing loan, it comes with having to take out an insurance policy to cover the duration of the loan and the amount of the loan. Now, that in itself is what you call a temporary form of insurance, and it is normally given out for the number of years. Let's say you have a 30-year mortgage. You could take a 30-year term plan to cover that mortgage. So if you were to die in the early years of that mortgage, then the bank knows to where they're going to get the money
Hmm.
in order to cover that indebtedness. And you in yourself, if you took the bank's money to build a house, and let us well, you would like to be here to pay every cent of that mortgage and to have to live in the comfort of your home where you can raise your children. But there are some given situations that will does not allow, and you could die prematurely. Now, it's not because you die you want your children not to have that house. So what the company will do, they will come in and they will pay off the indebtedness to the bank, so your family could live comfortable in that house. Now, property insurance. The bank also requires property insurance, which is a different type of insurance. That if you were like in the case where we live in a region where it is, the hurricanes are becoming worse. We live in a time when there's global warming, the hurricanes are becoming worse. In the Caribbean, it is like the Caribbean has become, a catastrophe. We have been threatened with earthquakes. We have been threatened with the volcanic activities that is sometimes it acts up in Dominica, and we have had bad hurricanes. Hurricane Maria, we have seen it at its worst. We did not believe that a hurricane could get any worse than that.
Hmm.
Now, if you have your property, the property owner wants to ensure that that property is insured, and that is where property insurance comes in.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, but
but
there's also a need for these insurance companies to be covered by an external companies. That what I'm understanding now.
yes, but I this is what you call reinsurers,
Hmm.
and because of the risk involved, and particularly a small company like First Domestic, which is a local company. Yeah, it was even. I'm not saying that First Domestic did not have reinsurers. They probably had reinsurers, but they did not have sufficient reinsurers.
Hmm.
Now, now reinsurance is insuring that risk with a bigger company, say Lloyd's of London. You spread that risk across because it's well, we have seen that because of the enormity of the hurricane, what it did to First Domestic. And I will say First Domestic because that is the company that we are talking about, and that is the company that went on the water. So I I will I will say First Domestic.
Mhm.
Um, Reinsurance is a way to, it's I would say it reinsures. It's like a reimbursement system that protects insurers from very high claims. Because what happened during Hurricane Maria, it was a catastrophe where Hurricane Maria decimated Dominica. The reinsurers, it involves that third party
Mhm.
paying part of that insurance company's claims
Mhm.
once the claim surpasses a certain amount. So let us say that um, they had sufficient, First Domestic had sufficient reinsurance, and they were obligated to, let's say, to 50 million or maybe a billion. When it reached that figure, the third party insurance company
Yeah, let's give Maslin a minute. I think she froze for a minute. But guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us.
that in itself
Yes.
is a sure way to stabilize the insurance market.
Hmm.
And we would not have had the problems that we are now having, where homeowners cannot get their investments, they cannot get their claims paid. As a result, some of the homeowners have lost their properties, and
Yeah, let's give her a minute. She seems to be sticking for a little while. But again, thank you for being here, Auntie Hummy, Humelina Watson. Good
yeah,
evening. Yes, go ahead, Maslin. I think you froze for a minute.
yeah. So no matter
Mhm.
what, no matter how you look at it, it is bad.
Yeah, but wasn't it a case that First Domestic actually got an injection of funds from the government after the last hurricane? So I mean, shouldn't that have made them buoyant to the fact where we should not be looking at this situation right now?
Simon, we can say that if we want to, but let us take for example, you have liabilities that is in the, let's say, $180 million, and the government gives a loan or a grant of $10 million. What is that going to do? How is it going to? Because you, let's say your claim is 100 and you need 180 million, you get $10 million. So there's still a deficit of $170 million. What do you think $10 million is going to do? $10 million is not going to cut it. And
Mhm.
although we look at it, well, the government injected some money. This in itself, to me, it was a down payment on the assets of First Domestic, and I will tell you why I say it's a down payment on the assets of First Domestic. There is first of all, there is a legislation. There is a legislation that which governs insurance companies all over the world, and Dominica is no exception, because there is a registrar of insurance in Dominica that has far reaching powers to keep the doors of the insurance company open or shut it if the company is in violation. There is also the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, whose responsibility is to ensure that the insurance company is operating within that space that satisfy the statutory obligations. And the ultimate objective of this is to ensure the policy holders at all times are protected.
Mhm.
There's also the auditors of the company, who have the first view picture of the company's finances on the books as it relates to the company's assets, liabilities, and whether the assets of the company is sufficient to cover the liabilities should the company go into insolvency. And all and to add to that, all insurance companies and managers know about risk management and the transfer of risk. They know. So the transfer of risk through reinsurers, as we spoke earlier, and that is insuring the risk with a larger insurance company. And we know that that we spoke about the reinsurers, what it is there for. It is a reimbursement system that protects the insurers from very high claims. So if they had sufficient reinsurers, then that in itself would not have been, in the picture.
Yeah, so your thing is it that you're thinking that that is the major reason they may have gone under because they were
Well,
not
well, well,
because
well,
of the reinsurance?
yes, but this is part of it. And let us assume that even if they had all of those things in place, they had reinsurers, the um the regulatory bodies were doing their job, they were doing all of what they were doing. But even if all of those things were done, and even if, let us say, America is insurance companies operate in a highly regulated insurance in the industry here. But even if all of those things were done, an insurance company can still fail for a variety of reasons. For example, they might underprice their products and have higher than expected insurance claims, as in the case of First Domestic when Dominica was decimated by the hurricane. And that was a catastrophe, and we all know it, which is one of the reasons why the government of Dominica should have stepped in. And notwithstanding they give them that, meager $10 million, but the loan that the company had requested of them, they should have stepped in and helped. Because from what I have said, it seems obvious that they did not have sufficient reinsurance, and the reinsurers, the register of insurance and the body that is supposed to supervise those the insurance companies and to ensure that they are doing the right thing. They're following what is on the books in terms of the laws, where those that cover those companies and keep the investments of Dominicans safe. So
Yeah,
if
yeah. So we have a lot more to cover because I think, of course, we're going to be concerned for the policyholders and the
yes,
employees. But before we continue, let me just greet everyone who's joining us on Facebook: Carol Herman Levy, Patricia Garraway, Edith Buganu, Unfiltered Diaspora, Kimberly Rice, Lynn Johnson, Hermelina Watson, Auntie Hummy, nice to see you. Clement Anthony, Janice Sharpless. Thank you guys for being here. Daniel, Benjamin, Paul, and Hector. If I missed anyone, I will be sure to check back. But guys, go ahead and post a message. Let us know if you have any concerns. Are you especially concerned that yet another business has gone under in Dominica? And Martin, even before we talk about the policyholders and the employees, it just begs the question, why isn't there a structure in Dominica to kind of rescue businesses from going under? Because we've seen so many businesses go under where, in fact, what could have probably saved them is like a Chapter 11 bankruptcy that we've seen with American Airlines, where businesses are given the opportunity to claim bankruptcy, to restructure so that they can continue to operate. What are your thoughts on that?
well, Simone, we do understand that even bigger companies go under, because no company is too big to fail. Furthermore, a small company as a First Domestic operating in a dead economy, we have to bear in mind that Dominica has been in a recession for 20 years under this illegal government that hold Dominicans hostage while they cripple the private sector. We have to agree. We know it. So if this government was interested in protecting the investment of Dominicans, the hundreds of Dominicans that First Domestic had the potential to employ, and and they have employed with the billions of the lavish waste of our CBI resources that this government has. They would have stepped in to bail out first domestic, like what the US government did in
Mhm.
2008. Remember in 2008 when AIG, which is a big insurance company, much bigger than first domestic. First domestic can't see the wind of AIG in terms of the assets, and in terms of AIG was on the brink of failure during the Great Recession. And that is what the US government did. They came in and they bailed out AIG.
Mhm.
So this is something that could be done if the government of Dominica was interested in protecting the investment of Dominicans. But from what I can see, they do not care. They do not care whether Dominicans lose their investments, whether Dominicans lose their life savings. They do not care, let alone they do not police those companies professionally and sufficiently in order to protect the investments of the clients. Because First Domestic is not the first insurance, is not the first insurance company that is going over in Dominica.
Yeah,
You
that's what I was about to ask you.
you had British American that
Mhm.
went under with uh, with people's retirement income. People lost their investments. People lost their all their retirement income. People lost their everything they had, their investments, everything they
Mhm.
had.
Mhm.
With colonial life as well, went under in Dominica, and there was nothing put in place to secure the investments of Dominican. So the Dominican. So this is the third insurance company that is going under in Dominica. And if this is not a problem, if this is not gross neglect of the Dominican people, that who have been striving and working and putting their premiums aside, yeah, be it for protection, be it for investment purposes, whatever it is. This is gross neglect, and somebody should answer for that. The
Mhm.
reinsurance, the registrar of insurance in Dominica, the body that that regulates the financial companies in Dominica, like the banks and what have you, overlook those companies. They should be called into question for that failure.
And Marcin, there's just seems to be like no repercussion. I mean, I've heard stories of people paying insurance from the 1970s and having that completely wiped away. And there's no recourse. There's no, class action lawsuits that
Nothing.
can, you can take against companies in situations like this. There is just no recourse. It's just a loss, and you just accept it as a loss. I mean, people have lost their retirement, and to just accept it as a loss. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Go back and work in your 70s to be able to earn a living? So I think what we're seeing now is that there's an increase in the distrust of these insurance companies in Dominica. People are saying, I'm no longer gonna, invest my money in insurance. And we even have an uncle, he built his house, and instead of getting insurance, he saved his money. And when Hurricane Maria struck, he was able to, build his house back with his money. But this is a guy who worked in England for many years, and he could afford to have all this money saved up to rebuild his house. The average Dominican can afford to do that.
Well, Simon, and even if the average Dominican had the capacity to save money, they cannot assume that risk. That is assuming a mammoth risk, because you don't know when if you have a 20-year mortgage, you don't know where you are going to be in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, let alone the next 20 years, because anything could happen. Look at the rate at which people are dying nowadays. And
Mhm.
anything could happen. Look at the disasters. Anything could happen. Do you think you can save to protect your assets, your
Mhm.
$1 million assets? How
Right.
much can you save to protect your $1 million assets?
Yeah, but it also begs the questions, though, Marcel. I mean, are there questions we should be asking the remaining insurance companies? I mean, should we be asking them, who are you reinsured with, so that we get that sense that if they go under, there's a reinsurance company that will step in to fulfill the policy holders. I mean, are there questions we should be asking? Because I own a home in Dominica that's insured, and now I'm nervous.
This I would very much doubt that the clients and the clientele can hold the insurance companies to that type of responsibility. It's not the clientele's job to do that. It is the registrar of insurance and the governing body in Dominica that is supposed to do that. And
Mhm,
how are you how if they have the bites as to and the ability to shut the company down, and they have not done their job, do you think a client has the ability to do it? The client
mhm,
does not have the ability to do it. And and the client in it the client is protected under the the laws governing insurances and what have you.
mhm, mhm,
So this is not the client's responsibility. It is just not the client's responsibility, because when if an insurance company goes under here in the US, whether the government bails them out or not, the client's investments are properly secured. It is properly secured. It is just different from what is happening in Dominica. It is different. The
mhm,
clients are not going to lose their money. So if the U.S. government had not bailed out AIG,
mhm.
and the company had gone under, it would not have affected the policyholders, because the state regulates insurers if an insurance companies go under, if an insurance company goes out of business. So what is happening in Dominica is unheard of. It is unheard of. This is just not done. And we are asking, what are these people doing? What are these people doing? The Financial Services Regulative Authority in Dominica, what are they doing? What are they doing for
Because
the
I mean, now it begs the question. I mean, should there be a mandatory investigation of the other remaining life insurance companies? Because, like you mentioned, this is not the first insurance company to go under in Dominica. So clearly, that is a sector of the economy that needs to be looked into with close scrutiny. So should we now see an investigation where we're looking into the insurance companies, ensuring that they can, because I mean that is an ethical contract that you're making with someone, that if you pay this amount every month, and mind you, if you don't pay and your insurance lapse, you have to go back and get evaluations and all that to reinstate your insurance. So you're holding on to your end of the deal, but then to hear something like this happen, it's just
it's awful.
unfathomable.
It's awful. It's awful. And I tell everyone, an insurance contract is a unilateral contract, which means it's only the insurance company that is obligated to the contract. The client can choose to end the contract at any time. But if the client has maintained his side of the bargain by paying his premiums, because everything that company says is it is going to do, which is stipulated in the policy, it will do only if you pay that premium, and you pay that premium on time. The clients took the responsibility to pay those premiums on time. So it is very unfair that after you have done all of that, then you are being told your claim cannot be paid because there's no money to pay the claim.
And and again, going back to the fact that people are losing faith in these insurance companies, because even after the hurricanes, many people thought they were fully insured, just to come to find out that they were underinsured. They hadn't read the fine print. So is it upon the policyholder or the insurance company to ensure that people know what is in the claim, what you're covered for, and all that information? Is it the onus on the client, or is the onus on the company to
The,
to to walk their clients through what are you exactly insured for?
The onus is on the client. You
Mm-hmm.
have a contract in your hand. You cannot just take a contract you applied you applied for insurances and a contract was issued to you. You can't just take it and leave it in the jacket, in the policy jacket, and never open it, never read it. If you do that, you are not aware of anything that is in the contract, because even after an insurance policy is written up and it is delivered, before the client accepts the insurance policy, the client has a window of 10 days whereby he could read the contract, and if he's not satisfied with the contract, he can return the policy to the company and get a refund of his premiums.
Mm-hmm.
So they give you an option. You have an option legally to read the contract. But as we say, we are people who don't like to read.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't read, then I very much doubt that you're going to be aware of anything in that contract. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people talk about the fine prints and the what have you and what have you. But then an insurance contract is not meant to educate you. An insurance contract is meant to cover your risk. If you come to the company, you said, my property is worth $500,000. I want to cover my property against hurricane, earthquakes, flood, whatever you want to cover your property against, then the company will do so for you. They'll charge you a premium, and you will have your property covered for they'll come out, do an evaluation to see if the property is adequately insured, or if it's underinsured, or whatever, or if it's overinsured, or if the property is in the states, to be covered and what have you, and then they will issue a premium and a contract.
Mhm. Yeah, and we must talk about the policy holders, and
Yes.
how can they potentially get reimbursed. But before we do, let's say good evening to Jean-Francois, David Joseph, Stephanie John Baptist, Jackie Abraham, God's Flames, Capacan. So guys, thank you for being here. Don't forget to share the live, let everyone know that we are, and share your experiences. I know you're listening very intently to every word that Marcin is explaining, and she's doing an excellent job educating us on insurance. But what have been your experiences with insurance in Dominica? Who might be the best option for insurance in Dominica? Where have you had good experiences? Where have you had not so pleasant experiences? Patricia says, is the responsibility of the insurance company to make good the damage to the insured property or pay the claim to the assigned beneficiaries. So thank you for your comment, Patricia. Yes, so Marceline, the policy holders, my heart goes out to them. And again,
Yes, me too.
all of this makes me very nervous.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Indeed, me
because
too.
then it begs the question: once the assets of the company have been liquidated, should the proceeds go towards paying the policyholders? How does that work?
Well, I don't know what decisions the court has taken, and if the matter has been heard in the courts. I have no idea, but this is unheard of. This is unheard of, because the insurance companies are well regulated. I have never seen anything like what is happening in Dominica.
Hmm.
I can't even speak as to how the clients are going to recover their monies, because this is unheard of. This should never happen in the first place.
Hmm.
And let alone, the current situation is like that. I don't understand why this insurance company could not have been bailed out, because we have to do what is legal and what is morally right. I
Mhm.
can't understand why, because it's a lot of people losing their investments,
Mhm.
you have properties that are still in the state of disrepair. You have people losing their properties because the property was damaged, and they can't fix it. The homeowners can't fix the property on their own, and that property still has a mortgage on it. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you think
Mhm.
is going to happen? You have some of the hotels that were not, that could not, the claims were not paid, and as a result, the hotels are not operational. uh,
Mhm.
and I am sure that there are mortgages on those properties. So if the hotel is in a state of disrepair, and you can't conduct any business there as to generate that income where you can service your debt, your indebtedness to the bank, then of course it's a domino effect, all because all because the company, there's no money to pay. You can't squeeze blood out of stone. There isn't no money to pay. And where this $10 million dollars came in, when why would you give a company $10 million, and you know that is not going, it's just a drop in a bucket, it's not going to do it. And there, I must say that there was sufficient monies, because look at the monies that we waste, the lavishness, we waste monies on sham elections in Dominica. Just look how much money did this Labour Party expend on a one-man campaign, and you have companies going under. How much did we spend, did this government spend on campaigns over the last three elections in Dominica, over the last election since Hurricane Maria? You mean to tell me that some of those companies could not have been protected to protect the investments of Dominicans, and to generate to keep the economy afloat? I mean, when you kill the private sector in that sort of way, you cripple the private sector in that sort of way, then of course everyone suffers. People are going to lose their investment. And this is what is happening in Dominica. When a company loses, someone loses their company, it means they have lost their assets as well. They have lost their assets as well. The clientele is under punishment as well, because they themselves have lost their investments.
Yeah, and Martin, this begs so many different questions because
Yes, it
yes,
is.
everybody might be talking about opposing insurance and not, wanting to get insurance, but we have to admit Dominica is a hurricane-prone island. So are
Exactly.
you telling me now that this has happened where I was faithful and loyally paying my insurance? Now I have to go get another appraisal and insure with another
But
company? Is that what you're telling me?
but listen to that, Simone. While we can argue that we rather put our money in a tin instead of buying life insurance, or buying property insurance, having property insurance. But as long as you take the bank's money, the bank wants to know that
Yes.
that risk is insured.
Yes, you
So the
have to
bank
have you have to have
the
insurance if you have a mortgage.
the bank is going to force you the bank is going to force you to put that policy in place, because that policy has to be assigned to the bank, because in the event of a disaster, that house is destroyed, that those monies, the company has to pay the bank, as long as the policy is assigned to the bank. And this is a way the banks protect the investment, because it's the bank's investments as well. As long as you have not finished paying off that mortgage and you have that title in your hand, it is the bank's investments. Because if you do not pay for it, the bank will come and repossess it.
Mhm.
So it's like you just can't get away. And it's insurance is something that is supposed to give you peace of mind.
Oh boy.
It's supposed to give you peace of
Right?
mind. It is not something to make your situation worse.
Right.
It is because it is supposed to give you that assurance that if something happens, your insurance is going to kick in. Because when you make that stroke, that stroke with a pen on that piece of paper, this is the only thing that jumps out into real hard cash when you need
Mhm.
it most. There isn't anything that you put your signature to other than life insurance, other than an insurance contract that will automatically turn into cash in the event of a catastrophe or serious sickness or death. So I always had insurances on my life. I continue to have insurances. I continue to have insurance on my property. It's something that you have to do. It is a part of life. And how are you going to who are you going to negate that responsibility to, or the liability to? That is your liability. And it is sad. It is very, very, very sad because,
Yeah,
as I said,
and I think what is also very disappointing to Martin is every time something like this happens, the silence. The silence, like who is the body, the authority who should come in to reassure people that we're going to work with First Domestic Insurance, we're going to see if by liquidating their assets we'll be able to pay policyholders. Who gives our consumers reassurance? There never seems to be any offer to provide reassurance when these things happen.
because they don't care. Look at all of the hoopla that happened with Leroy Paris when he was arrested for a 3 point something $1 million fraud. This is one of Roosevelt's Carrots allies. He was jetting around on Leroy Paris's private jet. So you don't expect those companies to be investigated. You don't expect those managers to be investigated when things like that happen. And at the end of the day, it happens to the greater demise of the insureds. And this is just not right. It's like, Dominica is a special case study. Dominica is a case study because that does not happen anywhere where three insurance companies
Hmm.
just went out of business, and every time the clients paid for it. The clients paid for it. The clients lost. When there is supposed to be the financial services regulatory authority to protect the investment of the insureds. The insureds, it is not the insured's responsibility to independently question, is my investment protected? This is the Financial Services Regulatory Authority in Dominica to do that, and the Registrar of Insurance to do that. Because, as
Mhm.
I said, the Registrar of Insurance has so much powers that after the company's books are audited and you find them lacking, assuming, let's say, that they don't have sufficient assets to cover their liabilities, they don't have sufficient reinsurance, probably they don't have, there are certain things that there are certain violations that is not in accordance with what the company is supposed to do. The registrar of insurance has the power to close the doors of the insurance
Yeah, yeah, and
company.
where are they? Why haven't we heard from them?
That
Why
is
are we have
that is the big question.
why
Where
haven't we heard
are
from
they
them?
in all of this? Where are they in all of this? What have they been doing? What have they been doing? Because for three insurance companies to go under and there isn't one class action lawsuit to recover the investment of Dominicans, it is disheartening. And I
Mhm.
and I really feel for these people. I feel for these clients because they have lost. They have lost significantly. They
Yeah,
have lost.
and the thing is, job opportunities are so slim in Dominica. Most people either unemployed or underemployed. So that is a huge sacrifice to be paying that insurance
Yes.
every month just to now have it completely wiped off and now being told that you have to completely start from scratch. I mean, I just don't understand how that can even be possible. I just completely don't understand. And then you feel for the employees, yet, what is it, over 100 employees now without, another set of employees in Dominica without jobs. Where are they going to find employment that is comparable to what they were earning at First Domestic?
This in itself is it's just because it's not only first domestic, it is not only British American, it is not. When you look at what happened to Ross University and all the other businesses that are closing down in Dominica, Dominica is on a recession, a 20-year recession that seemed to be affecting the private sector. The private sector and the businesses seem to be decimated, and it seems to be under a deliberate attack. So to bring those properties to those businesses to their knees, so that why is there a bigger plan of action? Is there a more sinister plan? Who when these properties go into liquidation, who is going to buy those properties?
I was thinking the
Who is
same
going to
thing,
buy those
especially the one in
properties?
Roseau. I thought
Who
the
has
same
who
thing.
has the money? Who has the money to buy those properties? I understood that when that $10 million was given to First Domestic, there was a clause in the government's contract that states if the properties, if the properties become available, or for some reason the property goes into liquidation, government has the first option. Who is government? Who is government? Now, that in itself, right there, is a problem. Because if you give a company a loan, you know that the company is $180 million. You give them $10 million. And that is why I call it a deposit, government's deposit. Now, whoever this government is, this government is, but we know that there's no transparency in Dominica, and we have heard of so many companies, that so many properties that have been bought all over the place under all sorts of. There's no transparency. Nobody knows who owns this property.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bring those properties, those your eyes are feasted on those major properties in Roseau, those assets in Roseau, on around Roseau. It means that somebody has a sinister plan to
Mm-hmm.
bring the private sector to the knees. People lose their business and they just come in and they take it over. And at the end of the day, Dominica will be owned only by a certain few.
Yeah, and it's a hard blow. It is a hard blow on many different levels. And we just want to encourage everyone to read your policies very closely. I mean, we're up for reinsurance in Dominica, so I'm gonna have to like read that policy for fine tooth comb and put pressure on these regulatory boards to speak up. I mean, I just can't believe how these things happen. We just take it lying down and we just say, well, so it is. I,
But
I just don't understand that perception, that concept that is so it is, and people just take these losses and they just continue on. There's no pressure on the authorities, on the regulatory boards to speak out and tell us what happened so that it doesn't happen again.
what action have they taken? What action have they taken? Is it that the reason they have not taken any form of action is because they themselves have been found to be, not doing what they're supposed to do, not doing what they are supposed to do, or they just let it go because apparently nothing functions in Dominica. I tell you, Dominica is a special case study by itself.
Hmm.
And the other Caribbean countries took those companies to court. The companies to court.
Yes.
They filed
Yes.
class action lawsuits because they were adamant in recovering the investments of their citizens.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, what has Dominica done?
I mean,
No,
has there ever been a class action lawsuit in Dominica?
but
I
but
don't recall ever hearing about a class action lawsuit in Dominica.
but you're not even hearing the government addressing any of that, and these people, they just don't care. And I've just never seen a government just treat its people with disdain and disregard, disrespect. I have never seen anything like that, Simone. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't even answer as to how these people are going to get their monies. Uh, from what I can see, that is just it seemed to me it is just seem apparent that that's just going to be a loss, because if the companies that are being liquidated at this time, the assets that are being liquidated, eh, what we have to ask ourselves, are they sufficient to cover the indebtedness of First Domestic?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that First Domestic owes 180 and $80 million, after the indebtedness of those two companies, when you sell all the assets of those two companies, First Domestic and Tongue Refrigeration, collectively, are those two companies meeting the 180 million dollars? Is
Mm-hmm.
so you can say, well, okay, this is what the company owes. So First Domestic can liquidate its assets and recoup that $180 million to pay off the claim and start again.
Mm-hmm.
Start again.
I want someone to correct me if I'm wrong, but the first I heard about the liquidation was a message on Facebook. So did the company even come forward and say, well, here is what happened, here's what transpired, we apologize, but unfortunately, we will be going out of business. What is the plan with our policy holders? Will we transfer their accounts to another insurance and make it a seamless transition for you? I mean, did I miss something? Because I don't. The only
Ye-
thing I remember seeing is a flyer that said First Domestic Insurance is liquidated. Was there anything else put out?
Yes, I think you missed something,
Okay.
because I'm not sure if it has a full year already,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a Jamaican company, I think, managers or what have you. But I think First Domestic was I think this Jamaican company came in because they said that they took over the assets of First Domestic. And I was listening to a program that Matt Peltier had on one of his morning programs,
Mm-hmm.
and the new manager of the company was, Matt did an interview with him, and when Matt asked about what is the position, he said they have taken over the assets of the company. I am not the liability. I cannot understand how they take over the assets of the company
Wow.
and not the liabilities. And what kind of business is that? If you're taking over the company,
Yeah.
the company is the
Assets
company
and liabilities.
company is the assets and the liabilities. And maybe after the assets and the liabilities, maybe after the assets and the liabilities, when you subtract the liabilities from the assets, maybe it does not have any equity there. But you can't say that you're taking over the assets and not the liabilities. This is unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't understand. I don't know how this is going to be fixed, but this is a very unfortunate circumstance for Dominica, and it is just not good, because the people are just going to lose their trust in insurances. They're just going to
Mm-hmm.
lose their trust in something that is so unique, so
Mm-hmm.
important, so necessary, and something that is the only thing that's going to afford you the peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
where in terms of preserving your assets and what have you. I it is.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate because it just speaks to the general trend of businesses going under in Dominica, and nothing is done to try to save them for the sake of the business, for the sake of the employees. Nothing seems to be done. It's just, Ruby's left and that's that. Okay, bye, and we just move on.
But
So there has to be done to ensure that we try to help these companies to restructure so that we can preserve them, and we can and therefore preserve the jobs of Dominicans at home.
hmm, I don't understand what we really plan to accomplish, but I can't see a country accomplishing anything in the way things are going in Dominica. And while the companies are closing down and the businesses, the entrepreneurs can't keep their heads above water, there seem to be a certain few in Dominica that seem to be operating in a different economy,
Mm,
because you see the you see the lavishness, you see mansions going up, you see properties being bought all over the place. And so who in Dominica is operating in a different economy than what everybody else is operating under?
mhm,
And this is if this is not uh, if this is not, genocidal of, Dominicans, businesses, I don't know what else is. But when you destroy the private sector, when you destroy the private sector that is supposed to grow the economy, you destroy the country. And no
mhm,
wonder the economy in Dominica is so lethargic. You need those small businesses. You need those small businesses to employ Dominicans, indigenous Dominicans, so the economy can grow. You cannot take your own two hands and deliberately destroy the small businesses. And you think when you come over and you establish in prop in in assets that are not income generating, you can't those assets, it cannot grow the economy. It just cannot grow the economy. People have to be employed so that the economy can grow, where they can make their contributions, you know and be it buy or sell. There has to be some level of commerce so that the economy can grow.
mhm.
We just can't do it in the manner in which it is.
Right.
And if by now we do not understand that our country has just descended into a state of poverty, when all your businesses are leaving, their doors are being closed, they can't operate in that lethargic state in which Dominica has been in that chokehold of lethargy for over 20 years. This is what you find happening.
Mhm,
You find that, and who is suffering? Not just the business owners, because in the case of the insurance companies that went under, uh, uh, First Domestic, the only local insurance company, the only indigenous company, it was birthed like Ross University and nurtured into something beautiful. Look, it's gone. But see who is affected. Not just the manager who has lost, and his family who has lost their investment and lost their businesses, lost their assets, but Dominicans who saw this company as a domestic company, as as part of them. They took their businesses there because this was ours. This was Dominican. This was part of us. So I can imagine that the volume of business that company did in Dominica, and to just go under with the people's investment in that sort of way, it is just unimaginable. It's unthinkable. It's unheard of.
mhm.
I have never seen anything like that.
Yes, well, Martin, I want to thank you for joining us in quick time to give us a better understanding of this situation with First Domestic liquidating and pretty much going under yet another company, losing another company in Dominica. And I want to thank everyone who joined us on the Facebook Live, Marshall, Olivia, Santia, David Johnson, all the way out there in Africa. Great to see you, David. Paula Emmanuel, Indira, Darnie, Vernie, Starrin, Julie, Nixie, Olivia George, who says a state of poverty and madness. So, Martin, thank you for joining us. Of course, this is the place where we discuss the issues. Any issue that come up, we'll be more than happy to discuss it. And guys, if you have an issue or concern, hey, David, great to see you. If you have an issue or concern, please feel free to reach out to me, pushpast10@gmail.com, so we can air out these issues and ventilate these issues so we can have a better understanding of the implications of everything that is going on in Dominica. So again, don't forget to follow Push Past 10 for much more. I am Simone Matthew. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Martin, again, thank you for, I know it was a busy work day for you and you took
Yes,
some time to be with us. So again, thank
yes,
you. Any final
definitely.
thoughts before you head out?
Well, one of the things I have to say is that insurance will always play a vital role in our lives, and whether we think we need it or not, you will not drive your vehicle without sufficient insurance on it. You must insure your vehicle, that in the event you go out there and you were to run over somebody, you don't want to get sued. You would
Mhm.
expect that if there's an accident, you would expect that somebody is going to pay for, pay that claim. So that is how insurance is important. Your house insurance is also important as well, because it's your investment. When you invest all of that money, you want to protect it. Your life in itself is just as important as your house and important as your vehicle. Well, it's more important because you have to be first in good health and alive for you to make the meet the necessary payments and to keep your investment safe. There is still a way out. Surgical Life in Dominica offers both life insurance and property insurance. Surgical Life in Dominica is still operated in Dominica, and it is they were there prior to Hurricane Maria. That is where I worked, Life of Barbados, for many years. I worked for that company for over 15 years, and then the company became Surgical Life after the acquisition was completed. But Surgical paid their claims during and after the hurricanes. So there's still an insurance company that you can go to in Dominica, because this is not something we can run away from. Yes,
Mhm.
we are. Yes, we are angry that we have, lost, and rightfully the clients. I understand the anger, and I understand where they are coming from, because no one wants to pay money and at the end of the day not get their claims paid. I do understand, but insurance is still very
Yeah,
important.
absolutely. It is important. And I forgot to say good evening to my mom, Medina
Yes.
Senhouse. Thank you for posting the greetings while you're sitting on the couch
Mm.
watching the program with me. So again, Martin, thank you for being here. Let's
Yes.
see who else
Yes.
joined us. Annie Queenie,
Mhm.
Magdalene Bonteef, Honore, Colin Bully Roach. Hey, Colin, great to see you. My former classmate, great to see you. Lyndon George, that's all going on for the past 22 years. Our local businesses are going underwater, unemployment rates skyrocketing like members. While members of this administration are getting richer by the day, Auntie Hammy says good night to you. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Auntie Hammy. As always, we have a big project coming up in Dominica that I'm looking forward to. So again, guys, thank you for being here. Adeline Prosper, thank you for being here. You can always reach me at pushpast10 at gmail.com. So I look forward to hearing from you in terms of what other areas of concern you would like to discuss. And if you have someone who would be more than happy to speak on the topic, of course, don't forget to check out Roots Connections on Q95 tomorrow, January 25th, 2023. We're talking about getting back into the spirit of health, being
Mhm.
healthy. We had 2 years of COVID where many people just, Netflix, chill, and ate. So it's time to click that reset button and get our lifestyles back in track. So join me here on Push Past 10 tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Dominica time for Roots Connections on
Yes.
Q95. Of course, you can listen on the radio as well. But again, thank you for being here. And until next time, you have yourself a great evening. Again, Martin, thank you for
Yes.
being here
Thank
and
you
thank
very
you for
much,
doing
and
this.
thank you to your listening audience.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. All right, have a good night.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
guys. Good night.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.